Yeah, right, guys, it's Bulbs, and this is week number 12 of the fourth season of the Home Draft League. Today's opponent is Smeefleham and Manchewtle City. Much like with the last episode, last week's battle, I've already played this battle. I know I really don't like doing three entirely post-com videos in a row, but life got in the way. But yeah, I'm just going to jump straight away into the league standings, and we'll go from there. So, as of last week, we have now qualified. You can see that here with the little X there denoting qualification. We have qualified for the playoffs, which is absolutely huge, and we are still in with a chance of top spot. Obviously, our opponents this week are Manchewtle City, who are up here. If they win this match, then I think they guarantee top spot. But yeah, we have a chance. I mean, I've been saying this all along. I expected to be battling down here and maybe sneak into the playoffs. So the fact that we've qualified it, we're one of the first three to qualify playoffs. It's absolutely huge. Yeah, like I said, I've already played this battle, and it's a less essential battle than last week's, especially. So I'm just going to breeze through a lot of this. But yeah, so we've qualified. We're looking for top spot, and on that we'll just jump straight away into the teams. So, as always, just going to very quickly run through my team. Drakefish, Excadrill, Hippowdon, Politoed, Volplume, Helios, Houndoom, Ninetale, Skarmory, Blastoise, and Mega Ordino. Oh, we're nearly done with having to run through that every single week. Next up, my opponent's team, Manchewtle City, much like Manchester City, absolutely terrifying Galarian Darmanitan. I've stuck in the Zen mode just under there as well. That's why he's got one extra Pokemon. Absolutely terrifying Pokemon. Then Raikou, Florges, Manaphy, Mega Aggron, Dragalge, Uxie, Tangrowth, Piloswine, Ribombee, and the Talonflame. So, whenever I've played, should I reveal this? Yeah, I will. Whenever I've played G-Darms in the past, I've usually had Focus Sash and Counter just on one of my Pokemon, just as a fail-safe, because obviously if this thing gets off like a Belly Dance, Salackberry, Zen mode, it just sweeps like there's no answer to it. I'm pretty sure Darmanitan is, if I just come over here, is it top of the kills? Yeah, top of the kills. This thing's absolutely terrifying. I think if you can counter it, like I say, like a Focus Sash counter, as long as you can keep hazards off your side of the field, it's relatively manageable. But my God, it takes a lot of prep to get to that point. Raikou, not really too scary. Got like obviously loads of ground types and the special wall in Mega Ordino, which can deal with it really well. Florges, really, really, really good bulky fairy type. But obviously we've got the Excadrill, so we've got an offensive answer to that. Manaphy is actually really scary, especially if I with the potential for me to bring the rain. That thing can be really scary, but we've got some decent phasing on this team at the very least, and Heliolisk can deal with it relatively well. Mega Aggron, which it's just a really, really, really good wall. Obviously, no reliable recovery, but with the wish passes from stuff like the Florges, you don't really need it. Obviously, with the introduction of Body Press this generation as well, it becomes a massively offensive threat as well. Dragalge is a decent Poison Dragon. Uxie is a relatively solid Psychic type, bulky Psychic, it's fine. Tangrowth, one of my favourite Pokemon in a Regenerator Core. I don't think there's a Regenerator Core in this team, but yeah, just brilliant Regenerator Pokemon. Piloswine is there as well. It's not too concerning. Obviously, it's just there as an E or an F tier pick, so yeah, it's just there. Ribombee is actually kind of scary with the sticky webs more than anything else, and Talonflame as well. I think actually really kind of scared me, if I remember correctly. I put a lot of prep into trying to deal with that Talonflame because, it can deal with a lot of my cores quite well, namely the Skarmory. So on that, let's jump straight away into the team builder. You will have to forgive me in this team builder. Much like with the last battle, it was a long, like a week or two ago when I had this battle. I can't really remember too many points, at least specific points about this team, but I do remember the general gist I was going for. So, Bring in the sand. Again, I know I've got a massive over-reliance on sand. However, Excadrill at +2 really does deal with his team quite well. If we just go through, obviously got super effective coverage against the Darmanitan, the Raikou, and the Florges. The Mega Aggron, which is less. Actually, to be fair, does Moltres a breakthrough filter? I should probably have checked that before the battle. I don't even know now. Dragalge and Piloswine and Rombi and Talonflame with the Rock Slide. So we've got coverage for everything except for the Manaphy, Uxie, and the Tangrowth. Yes, obviously the sand. I had to bring sand. Had to bring the Excadrill. We've brought it before, but Focus Sash Sword Stance. Like I said earlier, we're really going to go for a Sash counter to try and deal with the G-Darm. On that, I'm really going to try and keep hazards off the field, and on that, the Focus Sash Sword Stance does become a little bit more prevalent, because if I can keep the hazards off my side of the field, then we're really happy. Pardon me. Yeah, EV'd here to outspeed an Adamant Galarian Darmanitan. But also, more importantly, it's a Scarf Jolly Talonflame. Talonflame really does scare me, so if he brings like a Choice Scarf Talonflame, we do outspeed it under the sand. Next up, we've got Hippowdon, the Hippowdon. Very, very generic set, obviously just there to set the sand, really. Earthquake, Toxic, Stealth Rock, and the Slack Off. Go through my opponent's threats. Obviously, it does deal with the Raikou really well. It can kind of hold its own up against the Mega Aggron, although it can't do too much back. It does deal with the Talonflame quite well, as long as we don't get burned. So yeah, very generic set there, fully physically defensive. The Smooth Rock for the extra sand. Next up, we've got the Skarmory, the first of two big old G-Darm specific counters. This thing's got Iron Head counter, Roost, and Defog. Obviously, don't need the Focus Sash because we've got Sturdy. But yeah, Sturdy counter. If this thing, if the G-Darm does get to Belly Drum +1 speed, yeah, we'll live the Fire-type move and take it out of the counter. This thing is also the defogger of the team, which is kind of annoying, given that I do want to keep hazards off my side of the field. So I don't really want one of my Politoed counters. It is a little bit annoying how my defogger is also my Pokemon that requires Sturdy to counter the G-Darm. I do have a second G-Darm counter in mind with that. But yeah, I didn't want to have the Rapid Spin on the Excadrill just because that thing is going to be my win con. So, also important to note is the Iron Head over the Drill Peck. I think it's the first time that I brought Steel Stab over the Flying Stab. Just kind of deals with my opponent's team quite a little bit better. If my opponent doesn't have the Zen mode G-Darm, if it's just a regular Gorilla Tactics G-Darm, the Iron Head is going to benefit me a lot more in that case. Yeah, very generic EV spread there. Next up, we've got Heliolisk. This thing, I'm rocking the Sandstorm just in case something does happen to Hippowdon. This way, I don't need to preserve Hippowdon as much. I don't need to be as careful with it. So yeah, if I do lose Hippowdon early on, it does allow me to get that Sandstorm up for the Excadrill sweep, because that is an absolute #1 win con for me. Rocking the Weather Ball, which gives me a nice rock type stab that deals with the. To be fair, it doesn't deal with too much on my opponent's team. It deals with the Rabombi quite well, I guess. It's more just there because a little bit last week I had a free move, so might as well go for it. Got the Thunderbolt and the Volt Switch as well. Pretty generic there. Rocking the Dry Skin on this thing over the Sandvale. Sandvale was really tempting, but this thing is mostly here as a Manaphy counter. It's EV'd to it outspeeds a timid Manaphy. Yeah, this thing, like, obviously I've got a couple of counters to the G-Darm. The other Pokemon on my opponent's team that terrifies me is the Manaphy, so the Dry Skin is there. We could have gone for the, like I said, we could have gone for the Sandvale, but this just gives me a safe switch into the Manaphy. It can't really do anything to me, and we can take it out with a Thunderbolt. Next up, we've got the Vileplume. This thing here is a nice little matchup for the Raikou and the Florges, the more specially defensive Pokemon, especially offensive Pokemon on my opponent's team. This is the first battle, I should say, the first battle that I'm not bringing Mega Ordino for. I think, I mean, there's stuff like the Mega Aggron, which terrifies me. With hindsight, and obviously the Dragalge is a really big, specially offensive threat that can wipe out the Mega Ordino. With hindsight, I probably should have kept the Mega Ordino, but like, I've already qualified for playoffs. I can be a little bit more experimental with my sets, and bloody hell, I'm so set in my ways that experimental with sets for me is just not bringing Mega Ordino for the first week. But yeah, obviously with the lack of Mega Ordino, we do need another specially defensive wall to take its place, and that's going to be the Vile Plume. Yeah, Giga Drain, Corrosive Gas, Strength Sap, and Aromatherapy. Corrosive Gas because it's not very often that I've brought a knockoff or something to remove my opponent's held item this season, so I do kind of want to remind my opponents that I can still bring that. Strength Sap over the Synthesis, just in case it does help against some of the more physically offensive threats on my opponent's team, even though that is more like the Talonflame and the, the G-Darm, which have got some effective damage against this thing anyway, but might be quite useful. Not bringing the Leech Seed either, which is probably a bit of a misplay, but hey. And last up, we've got the Politoed. It's a really weird set to see an air balloon on a Politoed, but this is my second G-Darm counter. If it does get to if it belly drums up, if it belly drums up and it's a Zen mode, obviously Politoed resists both the ice stab and the fire stab. And obviously G-Darms, if they usually belly drum, ice, fire, and the earthquake. So if we're running the air balloon, then it has to hit us with an ice or a fire type move. With fully defensive investment, even if it's a +4, it's not going to KO us, but it will put it in range where a counter will KO that thing back. So this thing's a bit of it relies less on a focus sash. And it more relies on just keeping the air balloon present, but this thing is literally only going to be brought in as a G-Darm counter, so the air balloon will always be present. So long as we're at full health, then yeah, we can take out the G-Darm that way. We've also got the Haze, just in case that does become relevant, just in case for whatever reason the counter isn't the play to make. I'm not quite sure why that would be, but Haze is also just useful to have on as a Pokemon as well. Rest is there for some kind of recovery, and Scald is there for stab. So that's the team. Jump straight away into the post-con for this video. Okay, so again, as before, yeah, this battle was a while ago. My commentary isn't going to be the best. I do just want to kind of breeze through this. The main reason that I'm doing this, and I probably shouldn't say this, I just really like the idea of having a complete season recorded on my channel, because obviously I got halfway through both of my other seasons that I put on this channel and stopped recording for whatever reasons. So I would just like to have a full collection of every single battle, whether it's whether it's narrated well or not. Yeah, looking at my opponent's team is terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. Are there any threats here that that I had prepped for that he isn't bringing? Actually, to be fair, he didn't bring the Talonflame, which I probably breathed a bit of a sigh of relief about that. And no, actually, yeah, he just got the tank. I think he said no Tangrowth. It's literally there. Yeah, looking at my opponent's team, the moment the Tangrowth goes, then Excadrill can do really, really well. Also, if he's got a bulky Manaphy, then that's going to be a bit of a nuisance. But Tangrowth is the main thing to try and wear down. Unfortunately, I don't really have too much for it. So it's going to be a case of just Toxic, try and stall it down, will it down that way, and Excadrill can hopefully come in with a 2-hit KO Iron Head. I think that was my plan going into the battle. So jumping into the battle here, we lead off with the Heliolisk. My opponent doesn't have a ground type at all, so it's just free to get a Volt Switch off and get a bit of initiative. He goes into the Darmanitan. He reveals that he's Choice Scarfed actually, which is really, really nice because it means we don't have to deal with the Zen mode, all those Zen mode shenanigans. Which yeah, I'd much rather face the Choice Scarf Gorilla Tactics to be honest. He goes into the Manaphy on my Hippowdon. Absolutely makes sense. Now, this was an absolute misplay on my part. It was just a terrible misplay. Like, you got a Hippowdon in against the Manaphy, surely it's going to hit Scald or Surf or something. Surely it's going for that Water type move. So I go into the Heliolisk to get the Dry Skin off, and he just goes for the U-turn and takes me out. So I no longer really have much of an answer to a mana fee, which is absolutely terrifying. However, I do have an opportunity to put some damage on the Tangrowth. Go for the corrosive gas, and obviously he goes into the Mega Aggron, so that does absolutely nothing. And I go for Strength Sap here, which is a bad play because he goes for the Iron Defense. He's bringing Body Press, and on this, like, I'm tilted already. I've lost that Heliolisk. I'm tilted already. He's at +3 defense. I think my plan here. Let me get a crit on that Earthquake. My plan here is just to sack something off. And then we can bring in, like, I think we bring in the Skarmory, just go for the counter. So my plan here is just to try and get some kind of damage off on it. Yeah, just sack something off. File Plume is less essential for me because he doesn't have too much of a special presence on his team. Obviously there's the Raikou, but we've got ground types to deal with that, and the mana fee. We kind of lose to it anyway, although Politoed's water absorb as well, so that kind of deals with the mana fee. Volplume is the less essential thing, so we just try and sack that thing off. We go out to Skarmory, bring out the counter, and he goes for the Roar. So at this point, I'm tilted. I am so tilted. Go reveal the second counter, and he switches out. So we reveal both of our counters. Yeah, it's an absolute mess. It's an absolute mess. Goes back out into the Mega Aggron. He's had it wish passed into. Oh, I go into Politoed here. I do go for another counter here because I don't. I go for the Haze. I think now I go for the counter because I predict my opponent to. I think that my opponent's basically just gonna try and. I've lost my train of thought there. Completely lost my train of thought. Let's go back. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think my counter was the obvious play, so I think my opponent was going to try and play around that, maybe predict another Haze instead or something. But sometimes the obvious play is the right play, so I'll just cut back a couple turns there. He goes for the Body Press here, and yeah, I go for the counter, and I take out the Mega Aggron. At this point, I'm just like, thank God it's not going to be a 6-0. He brings out the Raikou. I've got no answer for this particularly. Probably should have switched into a ground type, but I didn't really want to give him a chance to get up like a substitute, start Calm Mining or anything. Politoed's kind of worn out its weakness. Well, worn out its useless, I should say. So yeah, bring out the Hippolytoad, and he's got the Scald, which is really annoying. You've got the Excadrill here. Go for Swords Dance because if he doesn't get the burn, then we're all in this front. And now we've got a +2 Excadrill, and +2 Excadrill kind of sweeps his team if you don't look at the Tangrowth. If you ignore the Tangrowth, we've got this. We've won. So we get the Earthquake off, and it's not a 5-0, it's a 4-0. We're really happy about that. He goes into the Mana Fee, and I completely mess up my calcs. I didn't expect this thing to be physically defensive, so. The Earthquake, I think it had a chance to KO if it was an offensive Mana Fee, but obviously it doesn't, and yeah, that's the game over. Nice crit on the Iron Head there. I think we're just sort of going for flinches just to try and make it into a 3-0, just to try and preserve some kind of differential. Does the Sandstorm take it out here? Yes, it does. It's a 3-0. It's an absolute mess, though. Absolute mess. Fortunately, already qualified for playoffs. This was just a bit of a freebie game. And honestly, given that Manchewtle City have also guaranteed playoffs, I'd rather lose in this matchup. Then I can bring more creative sets when we actually play each other in the playoffs. He's already revealed a lot of his hand about how he's going to prep for me. So it's a very underwhelming battle. Very, very underwhelming battle. But yeah, see you next week for the battle against Shad.